Emanuel Shilo is the editor of the BeSheva. He has an editorial. He also believes in sovereignty. He believes in sovereignty according to the Golan Heights model. In a moment he'll come up and explain what, but before that I would like to thank the entire BeSheva team for producing this evening. Dudu Saada, especially, thank you so much. Outstanding production. So please, Emanuel Shilo. Good evening. Not long ago, we marked 35 years for the Israeli law over the Golan Heights. I was 16, but again, I remember that process. I remember the Golan Heights law. I think it is an exemplary law showing a wonderful, successful process of applying sovereignty. I think we can learn a number of principles when we come to apply sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. I think the first principle is expanding the sovereignty in stages. We aspire to have full Jewish sovereignty from the Jordan to the sea, but if we cannot fulfill everything at once, we have to move forward gradually, one step at a time. It started with a little step and a minimal step of applying sovereignty over East Jerusalem, and then, uniting the city. This was done 50 years ago. And 35 years ago, Begin took another significant step forward by applying sovereignty over the entire Golan Heights. I think the time has come to move to the next stage, and that is applying sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. And if not immediately over the entire territories, because it is not possible for different reasons, at least I believe so, and I will explain in a moment, at least over some of the territories, for those territories where it's possible. And this, again, principle of gradual application of sovereignty. We have a source from the portion of the weekly portion from the book of Exodus, and this is what is written over there. You shall not chase them out in one all at once. I will chase them out slowly, but surely, slowly and gradually, until you settle down in the land, from the Red Sea to the Philistine area, from the desert to the sea. But slowly, slowly, gradually, gradually, I shall give the inhabitants of the land in your hands. By the way, from these verses, you can see that also back then, during the time of Joshua, there was a connection between demographic empowerment and conquering the land. And the second principle is to try and find a goal around which you can gain very broad support. The Golan Heights passed by 67 and 21. Those opposing, the Labour Party, the Avodah Party, had its reservation about the law but did not dare to vote against it, and they decided to abstain. But there were all sorts of members of Knesset who went against the coalition and voted for, and there were those who voted against. Today as well, we have to have a goal that will really gain very broad support. I think the reason is that what really delays this application of sovereignty over Judea and Samaria in its totality is the question, what do we do with the Arabs that live there? The first possibility that we've mentioned is something theoretical, is to annex the entire area without giving civil rights to the Arabs. This is a solution that is considered by many in Israel and around the world as something anti-democratic, not moral, some sort of apartheid, or whatever you will. It makes no difference if the objection is justified or not. This idea is not feasible internationally speaking. It will bring about sanctions we will not be able to withstand, and it's also not applicable internally because of the merit issue, the ethical issue, and our fear of the international reaction. So it is not feasible at the moment. The second possibility is to annex the territory and to propose to the Arab residents Israeli citizenship. There are some who talk about this openly and who want to do this immediately. They try to convince us that another 2 million Arab voters, or between 1 million and 2 million, is something that we can contain. I think it is a dangerous process. It has a potential of harming Israeli Israeli society and undermining its Jewish image. I may be wrong, but even if those who think so are justified, it will not help because it's a radical approach. And today, as far as I am concerned, we cannot get the majority vote in the Knesset. So maybe we can, help people support it over time, maybe for the long term, not right now. Third possibility talks about the annexation of the entire territory, and the Arabs will receive a Jordanian citizenship. The disadvantage is that we are dependent on others. I don't think the Jordanians are willing to cooperate in such a process. A fourth possibility is proposing to annex at this point in time only Area C. And this is identified with Naftali Bennett, and I support it, and I've already proclaimed this. I said it during the second Sovereignty Conference that took place in Hebron 4.5 years ago. The Arabs who live in the C areas, about 100,000 Arabs, we can propose citizenship to them. If they want this, fine. And again, in the framework of applying sovereignty over the Jews there, I think the Israeli society can take in another 100,000 Arabs. I think the political system can really can make do with another 3-4 Arab mandates. If they don't want it, even better, let them just be residents, not vote for the Knesset. As far as that claim for apartheid, we did our share. And we also turned all the Israelis in Judea and Samaria from that second grade citizens who are subject to military law to true and full Israeli citizens. We can leverage settlement there without having awful decrees from that military regime and with far fewer limitations. And in so doing, we'll be moving a step forward to try and foiling that threat of establishing a Palestinian state. Around such a plan, I think we have to get a very broad political consensus. And I don't see reason why the Likud as well, and not only the Jewish Home, will adopt it as its official plan. Today, with the new American administration, I think this has a chance. If we were only to decide that we would focus on it and unite around this at this point in time. So ask about what about, Nablus? What about Bethlehem? Our Bethlehem, as Neria said, have we forgotten it? No, God forbid. We said this is all about stages. We are moving forward gradually. After we base this very important stage of sovereignty over the areas of the sea areas, I think we can unite around this. We can examine what the next phase would be. A third principle that we learn from the Golan Heights law is, unilateral Israeli activity. We don't ask the Arab side who claims to have rights over the land. We don't get any confirmation, approvals. We didn't ask for anybody from the UN, from Syria. We'll not ask for confirmation from the Arabs, or not from the US either. This is what Begin did in the Golan Heights. This is what we have to do in Judea and Samaria as well. And another principle, a quick action in order to neutralize pressures. From the moment that Begin decided to do so, he basically fulfilled the principle that those who are quick are able to fulfill the mitzvahs. And he came on a wheelchair because he actually fell down in the bathtub. He wasn't able to walk. He got special approval to lecture from his seat around the government table, not from the podium. And the Golan Heights, which was really an exception, passed within 3 readings in 1 day. It prevented all sorts of pressures that could have delayed the legislation of the law. Of course, it's easier to act in this way when the Prime Minister is the one who leads the process and promotes the process and not dragged into it. That is why it is so important to recruit the support of Netanyahu when trying to apply sovereignty. We have to be ready, especially that he will get the credit, just as Begin in his time. It's not easy, and maybe it's not so justified when others actually thought of the idea and promoted the idea. But we have to also be ready to, give up on some of these principles to fulfill the objective. The other principle is good timing. The Golan Heights law passed half a year after Egypt was supposed to get that last chunk of territory in Sinai. Begin foresaw probably that Egypt would not dare react aggressively as a result of the law. He saw that there would be some resistance in the UN. He did not forecast how the severe reaction of the US. I'll talk about that later. But he reacted to it very courageously and in very respectfully. Today we found ourselves in a great situation to apply sovereignty. We have the negotiations with Ramallah has been stuck for a few years. His new administration, a benevolent administration in the US. This is the time for a unilateral Israeli step. If not now, then when? And the sixth principle, to be ready and alert to international reaction that can be very acute and very severe and painful. After the Golan Heights law passed in the Knesset, the UN took Resolution 498 that said that the annexation has no legal recognition. The Reagan administration, which was considered to be pro-Israel, reacted with doing away with the memorandum between the US and the Israel, which was signed only 2 weeks before that and was a huge achievement by the government of Israel. Begin did not foresee this, and his reaction was very acute and severe. He invited his American ambassador and said that if the Reagan administration is doing away and invalidating this document, Begin said that we are not the Banana Republic of America, and we would not have America dictate anything to us. It is difficult to imagine a prime minister today who would dare speak to the United States using such tones. Today we foresee acute reactions in a very radical situation. A severe reaction can bring about the cancellation of the legislation and the application of sovereignty. But David Ben-Gurion already announced the third kingdom of Israel in Sinai and then retracted. Let's hope that we would not bring ourselves to such humiliating situations, but it could be that the very severe international reaction may cause that a long time will elapse until we are able to annex further territories. That is the main reason why I object to the initiative that is headed by a number of people that I greatly appreciate to apply sovereignty on Ma'ale Adumim, because I think that before having Ma'ale Adumim, first we'll have Ma'ale Adumim stop. Menachem Begin applied sovereignty. This is the seventh principle, to annex the maximum possible. This is a continuation to what I said before. Menachem Begin applied sovereignty on the entire Golan Heights all at once, not on the east of the Kinneret and then on Katsarin and Hermon and then the south part of the Golan Heights, on everything together. That is what we have to do today. We have to do the maximum, because taking tiny and cautious steps again is not suitable for the international reality in which we function. That we may think, we have good causes to think that we'll find obstacles if we take tiny steps. Definitely from the UN, from the Arab side, from maybe even on the part of the Americans. The fact that we are talking about partial annexation, symbolic annexation, will not again mitigate those resisting. It could be that in wake of the severe reaction, Israel will be wary to continue the process and will avoid further annexation for many years. We might have to contend for many years with the sort of ripple negative effect that will come in the wake of this annexation. If we will have to suffer sanctions and condemnation, it might be again a reaction to some other strategy which will change their reality and will completely foil the establishment of a Palestinian state. This is what Begin did when he annexed the entire Golan Heights all at once. It was a significant step that was worthwhile, that political price he had to pay. Again, if the annexation is only done locally and symbolically by starting with Ma'ale Adumim, I don't know if this actually justifies the price. That is why the members of Knesset from the Likud and the Beit HaLeumi, to show courage, do not suffice in a hesitant, small, symbolic step to feel that we've done something. You must move forward, move the coalition to something much larger, something of greater value. I really do propose that we invest all our efforts to try and explain to the members of the Likud that Ma'aleh Adumim is not enough. We have to apply this to all of the areas, although Naftali Bennett was the first who said this aloud. If we are not able to get a full coalition support, more so than just a symbolic step, we have to make sure that the area annexed first will at least be such that its very annexation will be a significant achievement in the long term. It's difficult to see such achievement by simply annexing Ma'aleh Adumim. Even the Palestinians and the Israeli left understand that if the Palestinian state is established, Ma'aleh Adumim will not be part of the Palestinian state and will be connected to the state of Israel. So if we annex only a specific place, we have to give a priority to the Jordan Valley. On the one hand, this area was settled by the left governments, and there is a large consensus. Like those settlers with the, with the kippot and with side locks living there. On the other hand, we don't know that it will be part of the state of Israel in the case of an agreement with the state of Israel, or if there will be a Palestinian state, or if there will be a unilateral evacuation of certain territories. Even Netanyahu didn't speak about it in negotiations. He just said there will be military presence and there will be the Israeli border. That is why applying sovereignty over the Jordan Valley will leave the Palestinian areas as an enclave surrounded by Jewish areas, and it will do away with some of the implicit threats as to supervision and limitation of the flow of people and artillery weapons. Applying sovereignty in the Jordan Valley will be a sign and symbol that Israel has claim for the entire territory west of the valley. We will reach all those territories, and that a Palestinian and another state will not be established west of the Jordan. And just my final sentences, if I may. So if for some reason there is no possibility to annex all the sea areas, and I actually believe there is such a possibility, but if for those who don't think so, at least let us make sure that during that first step there will be sovereignty not only over Ma'aleh Adumim, but applied over the Jordan Valley. So, and even if we do have to take sanctions or condemnation, we will know it was worth our while. Thank you so much.
Thank you.